the key to, again, to success in anything is to get your mind right. Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, says you have to have a burning desire. Okay. So to have that burning desire, you have to be really clear on what you want, and more importantly, why you want it.
Hey.
Dawn Benton-Twyford, America's most sought-after real estate investor, and I'm here with another episode of Inside the Minds of Today's Millionaires. And as you know, on our session, Inside the Minds of Today's Millionaires, we talk to a lot of different people in a lot of different areas, and the thought process is we kind of dig into their mind, we find out what's in there, and then we see if it's something that you can get a little golden nugget from someone, and that could be the actual little thing that takes you to the next level of where you want to go. So today, I am really excited because we have Rod Khleif here. He's got such a great story. And before we start with him, I just want to let you know, the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. Go to Dwanderful.com, always opt in for free things. And our motto at the most wonderful real estate podcast ever is people before profits. So that resonates with you and you like finding out what's inside the minds of all the successful people, you're going to want to join me every single Thursday. So today, I am so excited to have Rod Khleif. How are you today, Rod?
It's a beautiful day in paradise, Dwan. I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do and having a good time and adding some value.
Your backyard is magnificent.
Thank you.
It is magnificent. So we start off with drinks with Dwan. So what are you drinking today?
I've got, well, I just finished my juice. Okay. I got my juice, my vegetable juice, which I have every morning. In fact, I have another bottle of it in the fridge, but I'm a water guy. I pound the water.
Hang on. I have water. I used to try to drink the same thing. I have water. So hang on. So cheers.
Salud.
There you go. Cheers to you, my friend.
Salud.
So we're going to have a fun call. So folks, we start off, we have a drink, ask everyone just to take a deep breath and just kind of, shake off whatever you got going on. And just enjoy the time with Rod and me today, and just open your minds. And so Rod, what we really like to do is we like you to tell us where you are right now, who you are right now, how we can contact you, and then we want to backtrack and see how you got there. So basically, my listeners want to know, what's your deal?
Well, my deal is I've never seen so much pink in my entire life. Let me just start by saying that. But my deal is, I know I saw that at the Florida flamingos. Awesome. Right. Awesome. With hats on. Anyway, so let's see. It's going to be hard for me not to go back, but let me just say this. All right. So I'm in the multifamily real estate space. Okay. We buy multifamily apartment complexes. And when you hear my story, when we go back, you'll understand why I'm in multifamily. And, I also teach multifamily. I've had thousands and thousands of students come through my 3-day boot camps and to my live stream boot camps. I was supposed to have 800 people in Orlando last May. And I was freaking out because we'd sold half the tickets, and we all know what happened with that. So I built a studio here at my compound, and now we're live streaming. And so, and I've got hundreds of students, and it's been such a freaking gift because, I've been teaching about 3.5 years, and my students now own over 45,000 units, which is just mind blowing to me. But, so I happen to host the largest commercial real estate podcast, I think, in the world now. I'm blessed to say and we focus on multifamily, and it's called Lifetime Cashflow. And we just broke 11 million downloads, and it's just been such a blast. I never thought I'd enjoy it. It's funny. You want to make God laugh, you tell him your plans. And so I started this podcast. You'll hear my story, and then it's hard for me not to go back to explain why I did some of these things. But so I started the podcast because of what happened to me. And And I wanted to share the story that I feel like multifamily is the best vehicle for
Okay.
long-term holding real estate.
Tell us how we can get a hold of you, because I want to make
Oh,
sure
sorry.
that your contact
Yeah,
information.
yeah. So,
a bunch of times.
you got it. So, my website is Real Estate with Rod. And it goes to my website, which is rodkhleif.com, but nobody can spell my name. But, if you have an interest in participating in one of my boot camps, you just text multifamily to 72345. I don't sell anything at these things. So that's and less than $100 in most cases. So those are the two ways: the Real Estate with Rod, and just text multifamily to 72345.
Nice. Okay. So we already love multifamily, because who doesn't love that? So I'm super,
Right.
and that you have the largest multifamily podcast. That's so awesome, because I'm going to be one of your guests. So I'm super
Yeah.
excited about that for my own self right here. All right. So it sounds like you have a super lot of great things going on. Do you mind if I ask you how old you are?
61.
61. Awesome. Well, you're looking fine, my man.
Thank you.
Don't tell anybody.
My wife is quite a bit younger, but
Oh,
she's an
how
old
young
soul.
is she?
She's 23 years younger than I am. So,
She's
but
keeping you on
she's
your
an old
toes.
soul, and it's really kind of funny. She's supermodel beautiful, but she's more beautiful on the inside than the outside. But it's really funny if you Google Rod Khleif. It used to come up Rod Khleif wife, because I talk about her so much. So that was like the most searched auto-populated term. It's kind of funny, but anyway.
Oh, that's funny. Well, she sounds amazing.
Yeah, she is.
So that's good. So we always like to find out. So you're 62, you're super successful. Obviously, you didn't start right there at the very, very top. So one of the things we like to do is we actually like to go like back.
Mhm.
Like, what was Rod? What was like 13, 14, 15? What was
Do you
Rod
mind if we go
Khleif?
back to 6? Let's go back to
Let's
6.
go back to
Okay.
the earliest you want.
All right.
What was 6-year-old
When
Rod
I was
Khleif?
6 years old, I was born in Holland in the Netherlands, wooden shoes, windmills. And I immigrated to the United States when I was 6 years old. We ended up in Denver, Colorado, where I lived
Oh
for
my
30
God.
years. And we were talking about that before we started recording. Grew up in Denver. We didn't have much. In fact, I remember we ate food that was expired because that's all she could afford. We drank powdered milk with our cereal in the morning. I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army until I lied about my age when I was 14 and got a job at Burger King and could buy my own clothes. So we struggled. Now, I'm sure you've got listeners that may have had it harder than we did, or maybe have it harder now, with all the COVID nonsense going on. But
Yep.
I knew I wanted more. And luckily, my mom was an entrepreneur. She babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. But with her babysitting money, she was an entrepreneur. So she'd invest in the stock market. But she also bought the house across the street from us when I was 14 for about $30,000. When I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep. I'm like, what? Screw college, Mom. I'm getting into real estate. So I got my real estate broker's license. I got my broker's license right when I turned 18, which you could do back then with education. Now they got smart. To be a broker, you have to have some experience. But I was a broker, and I was going to be rich selling other people's houses. Well, my first year in real estate, I made about $8,000. My second year, maybe 10 grand. But my third year, I made over $100,000. And so what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? And what happened was I met a guy that taught me about mindset and psychology, and how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is just that, your mindset and your psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the mechanical information, or the vehicle, as it were, real estate, entrepreneurship, whatever it is. And fast forward to today, I've owned over 2,000 houses that I rented long-term. I had 500 in Denver that I was renting. I've owned, I've owned thousands of apartment complexes. In 2008, I'm sorry, thousands of apartment units, not complexes. I wish it was complexes, thousands of apartment units. But anyway, in 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And of course, I thought I was a freaking real estate god. Okay. I could barely fit my head through the door. If you do the math on that, it's like over $8,000 an hour, for the year, and over a 40-hour work week. And so I thought I could do no wrong, but then 2008 rolled around and I lost everything. I lost $50 million in 2008.
Wow. Okay.
And
We're gonna pause on that for a second, because
right.
I know.
Well, let me just add one. Let me add one sentence.
Notes as you go, so I can.
Let me add one sentence, and that is, so now I'm known for talking about the mindset and the psychology that it takes to have 50 million to lose in the first place, but then the mindset and psychology it took to get back to the success that I enjoy today. So if you want to go deeper on that, let me know. But
I do.
okay.
First of all, the fact that you had $50 million to lose, is a astronomical thing in the first place. I mean, you're one
Painful.
of very few people. That's like, you're like a 1%er up there. You got $50 million, but then to lose all that. So what was happening?
Well, what was happening was, well, first of all, it sucked. Let me just say that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but I did. But anyway, and it was no fun because I thought I was set for life. What happened was I had 800 houses that were 2 hours north of me, 2 hours south of me, and everywhere in between along the Gulf Coast of Florida here. And I had several apartment complexes. It was the houses that pulled me down. Now, if you'd like some detail, I can explain why.
Yeah. We do want to hear detail.
All right. Yeah, so
we have a potential crash like looming right now.
We absolutely do. In fact, this feels like 06 all over again. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
I tell my students all saying, like, listen, don't even think you're getting out of this with nothing.
Yeah, and not something to be afraid of, but something to be ready for. I'm getting in a lot of cash right now because there's some exponential opportunities. If I hadn't been hiding under a rock in 2009, I'd be on the back of my yacht enjoying your pinkness today. Okay, and instead of
hey, listen, if you can't be fun and have a good time, why live?
Love it. So anyway, and I completely lost my train of thought when you flipped your hair there.
So we're talking about the 50 million. The house has brought you down.
Yeah, that's right. So Florida, let me explain this. Okay. So the name of my podcast is Lifetime Cashflow because it's all about freaking cash flow. So Florida has no state income tax. Okay. And so the property taxes are higher, which impacts what? Cash flow. Yeah. I had properties in wind and flood zones, much higher insurance, which impacts what? Cash flow. But here's what killed me. So if I had a maintenance issue at one of my apartment complexes, everything's the same. The plumbing's the same, the locks, the appliances, the HVAC, so we can stockpile parts. Maintenance guy's in and out in an hour. Well, if I had to send somebody to one of my houses, it's an hour and a half away, one way. He's got to go see what's wrong. Then he's got to go find a Home Depot or a Lowe's, which could be an hour round trip. And I don't know about you, but you can ask your husband, anytime I go to Home Depot, I end up going more than once because I forget something. But anyway. Yeah. But so what takes?
Yeah, why would you ask my husband? Do I not look like a Home Depot girl?
No, sorry.
I started off rehabbing. Home Depot is my favorite store.
Oh, that's funny. I love Home Depot, but that's the problem is I end up going more than once for a simple fix. And so do maintenance guys. And so what took an hour at one of my apartment complexes took all day at one of my 800 houses. And these were C-class houses. There's A, B, C, and D class. These were C-class, so a lot more maintenance than you would get in a higher demographic. Yeah. And so that really killed me. But then the coup de grace, as it were, that pretty much nailed the coffin lid shut was I wasn't paying attention to my tenant demographics. So I didn't even really care what that was at the time. But most of my residents were contractors, plumbers, electricians, drywallers, painters, roofers, which fell off a freaking cliff in 2008. So they didn't have work. Now you want to hear something crazy? I was at a 30% loan to value. I only owed 30 cents on the dollar and I still crashed and burned because it's all about cash flow. Right.
30 cents on a dollar, you should have been okay.
Nope. The cash flow killed me. And so, it was just logistically, I thought 80 million baby boomers getting old and getting cold. I thought Florida was recession proof. I was just a little early because it's happening right now. I mean, it is insane down here right now.
Listen, I'm a baby boomer. We're not quite that old yet.
Yeah, well, so am I on the tail end. But I thought I was set there, but I will say this: life is about meaning, Dwan, and the meaning I place on losing $50 million is I wouldn't have met my wife, and that's the truth. And so, we have a choice to, when we have something that's perceived as negative to happen to us, to put a positive meaning on it. So that's the meaning I put on it, and I'd give it all up again for her anyway. So there you go.
Of course you would. So now you're 50 million down.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be thinking like, what the F?
Yes. I was under a rock. Now? I was under a rock. All you see is one little eyeball poking out, for about a month or two. But then, you know what I will tell you, it's so important who you hang out with, because at that time I was in a mastermind and there were people there that were kicking butt through that crash. And, you want to be around people. And this is a conversation I love having around peer group. You want to be around people that think what you think is hard is easy, right? You want to be around people that aren't threatened by your success or threatened by your dreams or desires. And sometimes because of their fear or their jealousy or their fear of even losing you, they will hold you back. And sometimes it's family. And so I would tell you, love your family. love your family, but choose your peers proactively. So many people default to people they work with or people they went to school with. And you got to be so proactive about who you hang out with. Cause I'll tell you, show me your 3 top friends and I'll show you who you are. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be identical. And so luckily I was around
I
people that
could
were
not agree
thriving.
with that more. I tell people, especially new people. So like, if you're new, the best thing you can do is get all those naysayers out of your head. And they're your friends and your family, and they really mean well for you. But deep down, they don't want you to go up here to make $50 million.
Right.
They want you to stay down here where they're at, because then it's like, oh, you've changed, you're the same person.
Yeah. Happens all the time. And so you got to be careful about that. So luckily, like I said, you asked what happened, was I was around people that were kicking ass. And so I, I built a company out of the ashes of losing everything. And it was a litigation support company with law firms in 5 states. And I helped thousands of families save their homes. But it was, I didn't like the business because nobody's happy when they're losing their home. So I sold that business a couple of years ago. And now I'm focused on multifamily. So I started my podcast was to tell people, if you're going to buy and hold, for God's sakes, do multifamily, because it's much more recession resistant. My multifamily, if I hadn't cross collateralized it with packages of houses, I still have those apartment complexes. But to save 50 basis points, which is 0.5% interest, I would maybe refinance and put packages of houses with these apartments. And it was a big mistake. Like I said, or I'd still have them, because they pulled back, sure, but they would have easily survived. They pulled back about 10, 11%. They would have easily survived if they hadn't been, attached to those packages. So that's why I started the podcast, was to give people that messaging.
I love that. I lifetime cash flow. I mean, that is what it's all about,
Yeah.
At some point we all want, like you said, you want to make whatever it is you're making in your sleep. Okay, so now you're going back, you're building back up again. You started a litigation business. You didn't go right back into real estate.
No, I didn't. No, I was a little which was a huge mistake. Oh, we all make mistakes. I call them seminars. That was a $50 million seminar I went through, right? Okay. Well, not getting back into real estate was another seminar, because my God, I would have cleaned up. There were so many incredible opportunities. So I interviewed some of the best multifamily operators in the world on my show. And you start to hear a pattern. Many of them with thousands of units started in 9, 10, and 11. That's a clue, right? And so, but that's okay. It all works out. It all works out. I would have never, if it hadn't happened, I would have never started the podcast. If it hadn't started a podcast, I would have never started teaching. And it's the greatest gift in my life. This is not ego, what I'm about to say here. I get love 10 times a day. I get emails, DMs. I'm sure you do as well. Cards. Here, look at the wall behind me. I've got hundreds of thank you cards on the wall behind me. You can't even see them all. The whole wall's covered. I've only been teaching 3.5 years, and I get this every single day. So I'm addicted. I mean, I work on Sundays. My wife, Tiffy, puts up with this from me because she knows how much I love it. And again, I'm sure you get a lot of this feedback as well, which is just
I do. I love it when someone sends me a copy of their check, or, hey, I was able to quit my job. I'm just like, oh, my heart's so full and happy for them.
Right.
So now you go into your legal thing. How long did you do that before you bounce back into real estate?
I got back into real estate. Yeah. So I started my podcast for 2 reasons. One, to put the message out there that do multifamily, for God's sakes. Just use me as a poster child. Took me 2,000 houses to get that memo. But the second reason is because I knew I was going to get back into real estate, and I was going to do commercial, and I knew I'd have to ask for money, and I hate asking for money. So I thought it'd be a great vehicle for that, which it has been. I mean, like we've got a deal under contract, literally went under contract last night in San Antonio, 269 units, screaming beautiful deal. And we'll be raising money for that in a syndication. So, I mean, if you're listening and you're accredited and you're interested in talking to me about that, text partner to 72345, and we'll talk about that deal. It's a beautiful deal. And I teach my limited partners, my passive investors, I teach them the business behind the scenes as we're doing it. So again, if you're interested, if you're accredited, I can only take accredited, text partner to 72345. But so anyway, did the litigation thing. It was good business. We saved so many homes, but I didn't like it. So I got back into real estate. And it's funny, I started the podcast and I used to say on there, I'll never sell you anything. I just want to add value. It was the truth. But then I hit 1 million downloads. I'm like, Rod, you knucklehead, you probably ought to do something with this. So now I'm a liar because I've got courses and coaching and all kinds of crap. But
I always say on mine, this is the no pitch zone. But every now and then I'm like, listen, something's coming up and you need some programs or something, or you
Yeah.
need something because you're going to
Right.
get like left
You
behind.
too, right? Yeah, you too. And it was just stupid. You know, when I hit 1 million downloads, I like, okay, I'll write my book. So I wrote a book and I gave away 20,000 copies for free. And then my team's like, hey, knucklehead, do you think maybe we should throw this on Amazon? It literally, the physical copy goes on Amazon like this week. And this is 4 years later, okay?
Yay.
So, you know.
I'll be expecting my signed personal autograph. Dwan, you're the best in the mail.
Okay,
so.
you got it. You got it. You got it. Pink kisses, right? Okay.
That's right. Pink. Well, you know what? I turned 60 a couple of years ago. And I thought,
Oh,
you know
you look
what?
great.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll accept that compliment. And I turned 60 and I thought, you know what? If you don't ever do the crazy things you want to do, once you turn 60, when are you ever going to do it? So I thought,
My
you know,
dad,
I've always
before he
wanted to wear
died.
crazy hair. I've always wanted, and I do a lot of seminars and and I try
Is
to.
this recent? The hair and stuff? Is this recent?
Yeah, I'm 62.
But I know. I mean, you doing this crazy pink thing. Is this recent or
Yeah,
really?
I did it 2 years ago.
Wow, I love it. Yeah, my dad used to say, if not now, when?
Well, that's what happened. I was turning 60 and I thought, I'll tell you this on years later, but I was turning 60 and I thought, I want to do something different. And I want to just like, I want to feel like crazy on the outside, like I feel on the inside. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to start a podcast and dye my hair. So I went pink, purple, every kind of shade and decided pink was my color. So that's how I ended up with all this crazy hair.
Love it. Love it. Love
but
it.
it's
Love
fun because it makes me feel fun.
Of course it is. Of course
So
it
I
is.
would like you to give us 3 tips that a brand new listener that knows nothing about what you do, give us 3 actionable tips that someone could go, all right, I'm going to check out Rod's place. I'm going to go listen to his podcast. I'm going to go to his site, but give us 3 tips someone could use.
Can I pivot and give, because if I could share how I was able to recover from losing $50 million, I think that would actually add more value if you allow me to do that. Just because what I do, you know, I have these boot camps, and the first thing so let me just describe what we do at the first part of my boot camp in a way that you can do it yourself, those of you listening right now, because the key to, again, to success in anything is to get your mind right. Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, says you have to have a burning desire. Okay. So to have that burning desire, you have to be really clear on what you want, and more importantly, why you want it. So one of the first things we do at my boot camps is we do this goal setting session on steroids. And I'd like to take 5 minutes and just describe it to you real quick, Dwan, because I know it'll add value to your listeners. So what you want to do is you want to pick an hour when you're got a lot of energy. Don't do it right after a meal, and make sure you're well hydrated, drink a lot of water, and sit down and write down everything you could ever possibly want in life. Okay. All the stuff, the houses, the cars, the boats, the jet skis, the planes, but take the lid off your brain. If you don't, whatever you want, put it down. I don't care how big it is, a yacht, a private island, a private jet, whatever it is. Don't limit yourself, because there's nothing you can't do, be, or have. So that's step 1. Write down everything you can think of, but then take it a little further and write down all the things that you want to do in your lifetime. Places you want to go. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to climb every mountain over 18,000 feet, whatever it is. Maybe you want to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. I did that a year ago. I'll never freaking do it again, but it's off the list. Write down everything you want to do. Then write down everything you want to learn in this lifetime. Okay. So it's not just the stuff. Yes, you want the stuff. You want to write down how much cash flow you want in 3 years, and then how much cash flow you want in 10 years, how much money you want in the bank in 3 years, how much money you want in the bank in 10 years, but also the stuff you want to learn. If you want to learn multifamily, for God's sakes, come spend a couple days with me. I don't sell anything, and it's less than $100, but whatever it is, write it down. And then, so what you want to learn. Then lastly, write down who you want to help, because we'll do more for others than we'll ever do for ourselves. And this is the fuel, guys. This is to get your butt up early, to stay up late, to work Saturday, whatever it takes to build that life you want and deserve. So write down who you want to help. Like for me, I bought my parents a house here on a canal when my dad was alive, bought them a car, took them on cruises. Write down who you want to do things for. All right. Now, once you can't, and for those of you that are analytical, don't stop and analyze it. You can always scratch it out later. Just keep writing. Don't let the pen leave the paper. Now, once you can't think of another thing, you're done really good, but you've got to take a couple more steps here. First, you've got to put a time limit on each goal, and you just put how many years it's going to take, and don't overthink this either, but put a 1, a 3, a 5, even a 10 or a 20. Okay. Recognizing that as human beings, we'll overestimate what we can do in a year, but we massively underestimate what we can do in a decade or 2 decades. Okay. Yeah. So put a time limit on each goal. Okay. Just a couple more steps. The next thing you need to do is you need to pick your number one goal. I mean, that goal, when you get it, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. You know you've arrived when you get that goal. Now, if you've got 2 or 3 that are equally exciting, just pick one. It won't matter for what we're going to do next. So you picked your number one goal. Now I need you to pick your top 3 one-year goals. Okay. So you've got 4 goals. Put them on a separate sheet of paper. Now, if you DM me on any social media, I'm all over social media. If you DM me, I'll send you a link, because I did this on January 2nd with music, and there's a free guide you can download, and I guide you through this. If you DM me, I'll send you the link. And I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn. They even got me on that TikTok. So anyway, DM me and I'll get it to you. But this, I'm just describing it for you. I did it in an hour and a half. On January 2nd. I'll guide you through it. But anyway, so you've put a time limit on each goal. You picked your number one goal. You picked your top 3 one-year goals. If you do it on a sheet of paper, leave room in between them, because there's one more step, and it's a really important one. At this point, if you've got your goals like that written out, you are ahead of 99.9% of the people on the planet that do a New Year's resolution, 65, 70% of which are forgotten by February. But there's one more step. The goals are important. You need them. But it's the why that's going to drive you. So you need to write down a paragraph under each one of those goals, why it has to happen. And I'm going to tell you to use emotionally charged words like amazing and incredible and beautiful, because words are very powerful to move you, and you want to use them. So you might say that I can show my wife what incredible success looks like, or I can show my kids what it means to live an amazing life of abundance, or whatever it is. For me, so we can have the freedom to do whatever we want, whenever we want, go wherever we want, bring whoever we want, whatever it is that's going to juice you, write it down. And you might have some redundancy between the goals. It may be similar in the whys between the different goals, and that's okay. Now, but you're going to take it one step further, tiny additional step. You're going to put some pain in there if you don't achieve the goal, and you're going to make it freaking hurt. So I don't feel like a failure. So I don't fail my kids. So I don't live a life of regret. I mean, make it hurt. Why? Because as human beings, we'll do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. And this is the fuel, guys. This is the fuel to get you to grind for 2 or 3 years like most people won't. So you live the rest of your life like most people can't. Okay. Now, about regret, let me mention something. There was this nurse in Australia. Her name was Bronnie Ware. She was a hospice nurse. So she took care of patients that were about to die. But she asked him a question. You know what the question was, Dwan? It was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number one regret was? Not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not making my hair pink because I wanted to live that life. But the point is, don't have regret, for God's sakes. If you fear failure, fear regret much more. And this is the fuel to get you past that. Last tip is you need to visualize and manifest this in your life. And I'd love to give a couple of quick examples, Juan, before we move on. One, here's a good one. Jim Carrey, when he was flat broke, the actor, Jim Carrey, the crazy guy, the mask, when he was flat broke, wrote himself a check for $10 million.
Yep.
And for those of you millennials, a check is something we used to use to pay for things. But anyway, so he wrote himself this check, and he'd go up by the Hollywood sign. He'd look at it and visualize cashing it. And that's how much money he made for Dumb and Dumber. I'll give you a more recent example. Demi Lovato, the singer, when she was an unknown, posted on 10 years ago, posted on social media. I think it was 11 years ago now, posted on social media, I'm going to sing the national anthem in the Super Bowl. Not this last Super Bowl. Go watch the one before. She sang it. I'll give you some personal examples for me. When I was 18, I figured I had to have a 4-door car because I was going to show other people houses, right? So I got this bone ugly Ford Granada. I mean, this piece of, bench seat in the front, just ugly.
Is.
Oh my God, it was ugly. But I worked with a guy that had a Corvette, and he let me drive it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I got a picture of a Corvette out of a magazine, and I put it on the visor of my bone ugly Granada. Every time I sat it was right in my face. Within a year or two, I had a Corvette. I want to give you a couple more quick examples, and then I'll land the plane on this. But please let me pre-frame these examples by saying I'm not bragging. I just want to hopefully inspire you listening to what's
You're not
possible
bragging.
here. Okay.
I feel your passion.
Okay. All right. So I had to, so this is when the TV show Magnum PI was out. I know you remember that with Tom Selleck. Remember that when he was the detective? And he drove that awesome Ferrari 308. And it was the first time I'd seen an exotic car. And I'm like, oh my God, that's incredible. So I got a picture of that actual car and put it on the visor of my Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a Maserati, looked just like it. And again, these things don't interest me now, but I just want to give you examples. This is, and I've always wanted a Lamborghini. Okay, I had posters in my bedroom growing up with the beach and the bikini girls washing them, you know, that whole stupidity. But I was one of them. So my son collected models of exotic cars. He had about 30, and he had a model of the exact same color and style that I ended up buying, which is kind of cool too. So again, get pictures. In fact, I'll show you something here. Do you put these on YouTube?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is my planner. Okay, it's on today. In the back of this thing, for those of you listening can't see this, I've got pictures in the back that are in plastic. Now, the first pictures are my gratitude pictures. They're pictures of my kids when they were young. Why? Because to get anything in life requires gratitude. That's how you manifest this stuff. You do it through gratitude. And so these are pictures of my babies when they were little. They're 30 and 26 now, and then I've got pictures of stuff that I wanted. And I forgot to tell you. So, you know, when I tell you to take the lid off your brain, when I lived in Denver, I knew I always wanted to live on the beach, and there's no beach in Denver, but I thought about it. I knew it I'd visualized the palm trees and the beach and the sand and the surf. 20 years later, I built this $8 million, 10,000 square foot home on the beach. It was a magnificent home. I owned the beach on one side. I had my boats on the backside, but that was unthinkable when I was 18. So again, when you're doing your goals, don't limit yourself. But what's crazy is this picture on top here with the 10-foot high glass butt together with the travertine floors looks just like what I built before I built it. Okay. Now I lost that house and all the craziness. Okay. But this bottom picture, I live in a compound now. I have 6 buildings. I've got a big main house, a guest house on the water. I've got a media building with my video studio, exercise facility, theater room, on and on and on. It's spectacular. Because God's got a sense of humor. You should. Because God's got a sense of humor.
Vacate at your house.
I've got a guest house, so okay, it's right on the water. It's spectacular. But this is what's funny. You know, I lost that big house that I built, that mansion. It's right across the bay from my new house. I have to see it every day when I go out in the backyard. But you want to see something cool? You know, I showed you this backdrop behind me is where I live now. Look at the walls. Can you see the white walls in both those pictures there? They've been in here for 21 years. Look behind me. See the white wall?
It's right there.
Isn't that insane? It's the exact same wall. But then, you know, other stuff that I wanted, stupid shit like watches. I got a few $100,000 worth of watches, you know, that I thought was important. The Lamborghini before I ever got it. Okay. You know, the Rolls Royce, the Bentley, all the stuff that I got that, again, I thought at one time was important. And this may not interest you listening, but the point is get pictures of what you want, put them around you, and you will get this stuff in your life. Trust me. And I'm done. I know that was
you know what? You are so inspiring, and you're so motivational, and your energy is phenomenal. I love your energy.
Thank you.
And you know, it's funny. I do that too. I have a board over here. In my office, I have a 16-foot whiteboard. My husband built me I call it my big ass whiteboard.
Is it like a vision board as well? Do you have like?
Yeah, it's got all my things I need to be doing. It's got all my vision and stuff on it. It's 16 feet long, and it's like a piece of plywood, like 2 pieces of plywood you write on it. And it's got everything on it. I've had
because it works, guys. Because it works. Get these pictures, put them around you. That even if you don't even notice them after a while, they get into your subconscious. I've gotten all these things. The only thing in this whole list back here that I hadn't gotten was the 6-pack. Okay, I never got the 6-pack, but other than that, I've gotten every other thing in here.
I think you're doing fine, honey.
Thank you.
You're 61. You're looking very fine. I think the 6-pack's okay. Then you can always lipo that thing in there.
Well, you know, that's what the wife said, but I'm not doing that. But anyway, thank you.
No, listen, be happy with the body that God gave you. So
that's right.
I tell you, Rod, you're like my favorite guest. You're so exciting and motivational.
Thank you.
You have so many great ideas, and I know that people listening are going to pick something up from this that's blocking them. People always have blockers, and it's so hard to figure out what is blocking you. And
Yeah.
just listening to all the things you said today, I just already know people are going to be like, wow, holy cow. So I
Thank you.
want to ask you, first of all, I was going to ask you a couple random questions.
Hmm.
What's your favorite food?
Crab legs.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love Alaskan king crab legs. That's what my wife makes me when she's trying to make me really happy.
And what's your favorite band of all time?
The Eagles,
Ooh.
for sure. Oh yeah, I love the Eagles. And it's funny. I took my wife. My wife is black, and I took her to the Jazz Fest in New Orleans, and she didn't recognize a single freaking song. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Hotel California? Are you kidding me?" We had a lot of fun with it. Now she likes them and knows who they are. But yeah, it was hilarious.
Oh, I know. The Eagles were here in Denver, I guess, a year before COVID. And,
Yeah.
my kids all grew up listening to all my music. So I took all three of my kids and they're just like singing and going on. And,
Oh
and
yeah.
everyone else is like my age.
Right. Oh, they're the bomb. I mean, it's the one of their main guys died, which is horrible. But oh my God, they're you go see them in concert. I love going to a concert where the music actually sounds like what you hear on the radio.
Yes.
When you get these artists that try to be all foofy and are ad lib and doesn't even sound like it, you're like, oh crap, I didn't come here to listen to you, do that. And that's what I loved about the
I feel
Eagles.
like we were one of the generations that had like the last really great music because it wasn't all synthesized and you sounded at the concert like you sounded on the record. Like
Yeah.
you had to have actual talent. Now they
Yeah.
just put things on your voice and on your music and they do all the crazy stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
what is all that about? So at the end of every show, well, first of all, also, do you have like a favorite place? Like a favorite place in the world that when you go there,
Yes.
you're just
Oh
like,
yeah.
wow.
Without question. Without question. It's the Amalfi Coast. And let me say something about that as it relates to goals, because I've taken Tiffy there twice. It's spectacular. And they have all these yachts there. I mean, hundreds of yachts. And I told Tiffy, baby, one of these days we are going to rent or buy a yacht. We're going to go around the Horn of Italy. We're going to go to Greece, Croatia. So I will just tell another story about goals because it's relevant. So back before COVID, in February, Valentine's Day of last year, I took her to Miami. We went to the Miami Yacht Show and I BS'd my way onto these 200-foot yachts. So, I had the fancy watches and shit. And I walked around like I owned the place, the yachts, and I'd sat in the captain's chair and I visualized owning it. Why? Because it freaking works, guys. Okay. If there's a house you want, go to the open house, visit the house. If there's a car you want, test drive it, get associated with what you want, because that's how you bring it into your life quicker. So I'm glad that you asked me that question.
And I've never been there, but
it's spectacular.
It's a place I'd really like to go and visit. So this has been such a great interview. So at the end of the interviews, I have a thing called the 5 equities of life. Mm-hmm. And I figure like if you kind of break these things like a pie, this is everything in our life falls under one of these categories. So they are financial, spiritual, physical, mental, and family. So I always like my guests to give us the category and the assignment. And then everyone knows that listens to me, they have to do it for a week. If they love it, they keep it in their life. And if they don't, at least they did something different that got their minds sompace else. So what is our life equity and what are we going to do?
I have to tell you a quick story. Now, this is kind of an offshoot of spiritual, but I think it's one you may want to add to your categories, frankly. And you'll hear why in a second. So when I built that house on the beach, okay, this, again, 10,000 square feet. Let me describe the property to you. Okay. It had, again, I had the beach on one side, boathouses on the backside, giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get to the pool. Pool was in magazines. It's spectacular. Big spiral staircase, carved metal up through the middle of the house. To give you an idea, the second floor, I had an aquarium that cost me almost 200 grand that ramped around the staircase. It gives you an idea of the house. I mean, wine cellar, elevators, all that. Anyway, 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night. The pool's changing colors. It's got fiber optic lighting. Okay, I worked for this thing for 20 years, okay? 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating up at the pool and I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, because that's really what it was. It was to prove the world I was good enough. That's why I did it. That's the truth of it. And I got depressed. And I'm like, what the hell? I mean, I got really depressed. I mean, this is 2 months after I moved in. And I just achieved success like times 1,000. How could I possibly feel bad? Right. Well, when I look back on it, there were several things going on. One was you should never achieve a big goal without having other big goals lined up behind it, because like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. You need a vision for your future. And I didn't know what the hell I was going to do next. So that's number one. Number two is, yes, you need the goals. You must have them, because that's what gets your butt out of bed and does whatever it takes to create that burning desire so you can create that life that you want. But it's never about the goals. It's about progress and growth. The happiness, your happiness never comes from the goals. They say the happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy it and the day they sell it. It's the same thing. Goals, you need them, but it's never about that. It's who you're becoming, and happiness comes from that continual progress and growth. So it's critical that you pat yourself on the back as you're growing and learning, and even if it's a little bit, consciously acknowledge it. But the big thing was, I'd been totally focused on myself, to prove that, and it's embarrassing to admit, I was 40 when I got this memo, but I'd been totally focused on Rod, show the world I matter, Rod, Rod, Rod. Well, I went out and bought some books because, I'm not going to go sit on a couch and belabor, that I feel bad. I just, not that I don't think it's a good idea to get some therapy sometimes, but I went out and bought some books. I got Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins, motivational people, Tony Robbins.
I love
and I started reading Tony's book, and I'm like, man, I really like this. It was Unleash the Power Within. So I went and saw him live, and I found out that he fed families for the holidays. And I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. Again, I'm embarrassed that I was 40 before I got that memo, but there's a punchline in all this. So just hang with me. And so I decided to go back and feed 5 families. And I flew to Denver. I was in Florida. I flew to Denver, and I grabbed my brother. I said, let's go to your church and ask them who really needs help. And we got 5 families. Third family changed my life. We go up to this house, and we found out if they had kids, and we did it for Thanksgiving. We do it for Christmas now, but we did it for Thanksgiving. And we had frozen turkeys. We had a roasting pan. We had the food. We had toys for the kids. So this lady comes out of this crappy 1-bedroom. It wasn't even a 1-bedroom. It was like a crappy 1-bedroom with 5 kids, lady with 5 kids. She comes out and she sees this stuff on the porch, and she starts crying. And then her kids come out. The older ones start crying. Then I start crying, and I'm freaking hooked. And I'm blessed to say that over the last 20 years, we've fed 100,000 children here in Sarasota and Bradenton. We've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies here. We've done tens of thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for their officers to keep in their vehicles, so when they encounter a child that's been traumatized, they can comfort them. And I'm not telling you this to brag, but those of you listening, listen up right now. This is really important. We've been taught to achieve to be happy. And when you incorporate giving back, you are happily achieving. See the difference? Now, and you are going to get the success much faster. Now, you don't do it for that reason, but you may as well be happy while you're doing it. See, I was successful, but I was unfulfilled. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. And fulfillment is an art. So here's what I want to tell you. Here's my advice to you. This is what you need to do for the next week. Find something you're passionate about. I don't care what it is. It can be kids. It can be the elderly. It can be the environment. It can be animals. I don't care. Do something towards that. Don't tell me I'll do it when I have money. Do it now. Give of your time if you have to, because why? You'll be happily achieving, and you will get to that success so much faster, and you'll be making the world a better place. And trust me on that. There you go.
I love it. All right. Tell us again how people can find you.
Well, if you guys, I pay all of the operational expenses for my foundation. It's tinyhandsfoundation.org. In fact, if you text Tiny Hands to 72345, $22 feeds a family. Again, I cover the operational expenses and a whole lot more. Every dime goes to the food and the stuff. So Tiny Hands to 72345 for that. If you want to learn multifamily, for God's sake, spend a couple of days with me. In fact, I'll give your listeners a code so they can literally right now, they can come for $47, and I don't sell anything there. 18 hours of training, nothing being sold. Text multifamily to 72345 and use the code RODFRIEND. Okay. And you can come for $47 right now. Price goes up to about $300 depending on if you wait too long, but that'll give you $50 off. But, and then Real Estate with Rod. Nobody can spell my name, so that directs to my website, rodkhleif.com. But I got tons of free. I've got books there. I've got videos there. I've got articles there. If you want to learn multifamily, that's the other thing. Even if you don't want to do multifamily, my podcast, every week I do a motivational clip. It's 5 minutes. It's called Own Your Power. I've got hundreds of them there, and I will juice your ass if you come listen to me for 5 minutes, on Monday morning. I'll get you motivated. I play music and people rave about those. So there, again, it's lifetime cash flow. If you put real estate in on your iPhone, I usually come up number 1 or 2. Yeah, there you go.
All right. So now my job, I got a lot of notes. See if I was able to get inside the mind of Rod Khleif.
Thank you.
So first of all, your podcast is Lifetime Cashflow Podcast. Love that. Mm-hmm. You are a multifamily guy. You've been teaching for 3.5 years. You lost $50 million, which is some serious stuff right
sucks.
There.
The word you're looking for is sucks. Yeah, that sucks.
It sucks. Okay, it does. Real estate with Rod.com. 6 years old. You were in Denver.
I immigrated.
And tell me, I'm sorry?
From Holland. I immigrated from Holland.
Yeah,
wooden shoes, windmills.
That's awesome. I love Holland. Started working in the Burger King because you lied about your age. 18, you became a broker. You're making by your third year, you're making 100 grand. You were thinking that, you're pretty great. Then the crash came, thunder and lightning, fire, bombs all around you. And you got into the litigation business, which is helping people, but you didn't like that. So I totally get that.
Right.
And you want people to write down and make pictures and vision boards of everything that they can think of, do.
If they want them. If they want it, bottom line, if you want it, trust me on this. I know it's foofy. Some of you analytical ones are going, come on, let's talk about real estate or something. I'm here to tell you this is a whole lot more important. Trust me.
It's not foofy. So, it works. I had like the tiniest little thing a decade ago. I put a paddleboard on my vision board because I was like, I wanted to buy a paddleboard. And I thought, okay, I got to buy a paddleboard. I have a house in Florida. I want a paddleboard. So I put one on there. And then not too long ago, my husband's like, hey, I'm going to go buy a paddleboard. And I was like, oh, you picked the one that's on my board. Oh, man. So hold on. That was my alarm going off there. Okay. You hang on a minute. So you like crab legs, you like the Eagles, you like the Amalfi Coast. Is that right? Coast. And put down everything.
Amalfi Coast of Italy, southern part of Italy.
What you want to help, set time limits, set goals, your top 3 1-year goals, and why, and the pain if you don't make it. Because people either work away from pain. That's how people work. They work towards pleasure, they work away from pain. So I think if you have a list of hey, these are all the painful things, and I don't want to go back to that, as an awesome tip. And if they text you at 72345 and use the code RODFRIEND, they can get a discount on one of your things.
Text multifamily to 72345. And it can be one word, multifamily, one word, and then use the code RODFRIEND when you check out. You can come right now for $47. If you wait, it'll be, I don't know when you'll air this. It could be 97, but still, for 18 hours of training with nothing being sold, give me a break. That's less than a meal.
Yeah. I'm going to go listen to it. It sounds like fun to me. And,
you can come as my guest. I won't make you pay because of that
I'm
pink
happy
hair.
To pay though. But I'll take that. I'll take that up. And you feed 100,000 children, which is really, honestly, that just really touches my heart. We work at the homeless in Denver, and when you feed people, there's just something about that.
Oh yeah.
Because I've never been in my life where we didn't have food. And when you are feeding people, it's like, oh my God, these poor people don't like that. It gets me all weird. Every time I go down there, I start crying with all
and you're happily achieving. Okay. Just bring it in now, my friends. Doesn't matter what you pick, but something that juices you. Pick it and go for it.
And our spiritual assignment is to find something that we like and do something and work towards that. And I agree. It doesn't have to be money. It can be time. You can go spend an hour somewhere with some kids or an orphanage or the homeless or something.
You can go to an old folks home, and just say, hey, who's lonely here who never gets guests? And just go talk to them and ask them questions about their childhood.
Go read to them.
Yeah,
they love it. And we're going to manifest gratitude. I like your visualization that you bought your 4-door car and visualized a Corvette and Tom Selleck, and you got yourself your Ferrari. So your visualization works.
Yes, it does.
And on top of all that, you are a super crazy successful multifamily guy, and you're a rock star, Rod.
Thank you.
So did I summarize you a little bit? Did we get inside your mind this much?
Stop it.
Did we get inside your mind that much?
Yeah, no, you did good. And you recapped it really well. Thank you.
It's a lot to recap because we talked so fast. I had 2 pages of notes over here.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, so everyone, Rod and I do our podcast and we do them for you. We do them to help you all become successful. We help you to be a better person. We help you to learn tips that will save you from things like giant crashes and things like that. And that is what we do. And so I really want you to go over to the Lifetime Cashflow podcast, leave a 5-star review. You could even say, hey, I heard him on Dwan. He's a rock star. Give him a 5-star review. Also,
well, listen first. Listen to the show first, and make sure I deserve the 5-star review. But thank you.
You deserve the 5-star review. I'm going to leave you one now. Also, don't forget to opt in at Dwanderful.com. I've got some free ebooks for you, and also the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. If you like something, learn something got you excited today, I'll take a 5-star review and an awesome comment. So that's it. So Rod, I like to have you give us our last parting words of wisdom. And what you are so smart and wise anyway. What would be your last parting words of wisdom?
Whatever it is that you want, don't wait. Don't wait. Time is passing by, and I think it was Buddha that said, "You think you have time." You don't. Go do it now. Just push yourself through. That first step's always the hardest. It's the scariest. Like in real estate, it's the law of the first deal. It's the hardest, the most stressful, takes the longest. I see it with my students. It takes them 8 months, a year to get their first deal. Next thing I know, they have 6, because it's, but you got to take that first step. Like Dr. Martin Luther King said, you take that first step in faith, and the next step will be revealed. And so, but you got to take action. Push through the fear. It's freaking worth it.
Amen. I agree to that. All right, guys, remember, Rod, thank you again. You are a rock star. And remember, folks, we'll be here next week, same bat time, same bat channel. And the truth is in the red letters. Okay, everybody, see you next week. Ciao.